You've been doing great. Hey, everyone, I want to say thank you so much for having me out here today. I am honored to be a part of this community. This is incredible. I want to say thank you to everybody for flying out. Everybody came in from all over the country to be here. I know how hard that is this time of year, so close to Christmas, to be at an event like this. It's very special. And Denzel, I know I just told you to get comfortable, man, but I need you to come back up here one more second, please. So sorry. Diana started the day off beautifully, had me crying first thing. 5 minutes I'm here, I'm already crying. I just have to say, man, I know all glory to God, but look at what God is doing in this place. It is absolutely incredible, and you've done such an incredible job of setting this up. It's hard to put together an event, man. You've done an amazing job. Can we give it up for Denzel and Diana? Thanks, man. That's good. Appreciate it. All right, let me tell you a funny story how I met Denzel. So I go to masterminds, and when I go to these events, there's no assigned seating, but I like to get there early. And I like to sit right up front. I want to be right in this seat right here. So I get to this mastermind in Denver. I walk through the doors. I'm early, and somebody's sitting in my seat. Right up front, the closest you could be to without being on the stage, there's a guy sitting there, okay? Now, this is a business casual event. I'm dressed okay. My wife picked out my stuff. I got a nice shirt, shorts, not great shoes, but good enough shoes, right? And I'm not a shoe guy, but I walk up to now my new seat next to this gentleman, and the first thing I notice are his shoes. Okay, he's got the shine, he's got the suit, all right? And so I'm looking at this guy, and I look down at his lapel, and he's got this little cartoon of this handsome-looking guy. I look up, it's the dude. It's his face on his suit. I'm like, I got to get to know this guy, man. This guy's incredible. So we get to talking, and, he serves people in velocity banking. I serve people with retirement planning and helping people with retirement, and I've used velocity banking in my practice for years. He looks like he's 12 years old. I look like I'm 13 years old. We hit it off, right? So it's just an incredible relationship I'm really grateful to be a part of. And I want to tell you how awesome God is. So a few weeks back, maybe a couple months ago now, I'm sitting in church, and our pastor's up there talking about having a mission for the church and what's your personal mission. And I know what my mission is in business, but I'm struggling. I go home, I'm praying, how do I bring Jesus into what I'm doing every day in my ministry and my walk and how I'm serving people? And so then, boom, all of a sudden, Denzel texts me and goes, hey, dude, you want to come speak at a faith business event, which I'd never heard of before? I'm like, what an opportunity. How cool is that? Last week, I'm sitting in church, and our pastor talks about what's happening right now in society. And he puts up a cover of Time magazine from 1966. And on the cover of Time magazine, it read, "Is God Dead?" And in 1966, it was kind of the height of that hippie movement, the counterculture movement. A lot of kids were turning away from God and the church. And then there was this pastor, okay, who they talked about here, Chuck Smith, who came and started this revolution. 4 years later, the cover of Time magazine, which our pastor put up, was the Jesus Revolution. In 4 years, they went from "Is God Dead?" to the Jesus Revolution because of what this man did. And they started talking about this church, this Calvary church. And I thought, man, that'd be so cool to visit there one day. That'd be awesome. And me, not even thinking, I'm walking in the front door, and I'm like, this isn't the church. This can't be the place. And then the pastor gets up and talks about Chuck Smith. God's amazing. It's absolutely incredible. Quick show of hands. Who here grew up in a household with scarcity around the subject of money? Right? Scarcity comes in many forms. And I was raised in the live for today household. In fact, I'm fairly confident my dad invented the phrase YOLO. I'm pretty sure that's where it came from. Okay, he made big money. He spent big money. And he always taught me that you want to live for today. It's very important, which at its core is a great, beautiful concept, okay? But because we didn't have principles put in place to manage the wealth, even though we had money growing up, it always felt like it was going to run out or there was some impending crisis that could be coming. And so we're going to talk today a lot about what it means that money does not necessarily equal abundance, okay? Abundance is a mindset, and we're going to talk about what that looks like in the framework of retirement. So let me tell you a little about who I am. Okay, so I got married. I met the love of my life very early on. Very blessed to marry my wife, Jennifer. There's us on our wedding day. I'm going to college. I get hired by J.P. Morgan. I leave college to go work for J.P. Morgan. Pretty soon, my dad, who's been in retirement planning for 37 years, invites me to join the family business. There's him and I up there. And after 8 years, I quickly rose through the ranks. I got invited to join an organization called Top of the Table, which is one of the highest honors you can be a part of in my industry. It puts you in the top 1% of what we do for a living. I got a chance to write some books. I had two beautiful daughters. There's Cassidy and Spencer. They're watching from home on YouTube Live, so hi, babies. Want to give you a shout out. And the reason I wrote my books was because at this point, I had met with 10,000 families. And what I had learned from meeting with all these different families was a couple things. People are retiring with a 401k and a home with the bulk of their net worth. And if things keep going the way they're going to need some more money. So I wrote these books. I want to highlight this one book here. It didn't actually get published. I don't know if you could read the title. It's called Rich Grandma, Poor Grandma. My attorney shares the same building as Robert Kiyosaki's attorneys in Phoenix. So I submitted this book, and he goes, Daniel, no. Like, we are not publishing this. You will 100% chance you're going to get sued. So this never actually made it to print, but this is my chance to share it with people because I just like it, and I don't have anywhere else to share it. I thought it was a great title. So it ended up becoming Retirement Simplified, a 2-step formula to retire wealthy. And so things are going great at this point. You know, I'm making a lot of money. I'm serving a lot of people. And this is where I decided to take a 90-degree turn and leave the family business and go out on my own. And this is now what we refer to as my prodigal son moment. And when I went out on my own, I learned a couple things about business really quickly. And one of the reasons why I'm so excited to be here today is about 2.5 years ago, to the day almost, that business failed. And I mean completely failed, like ran out of money. And it's a very hard time. In fact, I'm going to share a picture with you that I've never shown anybody before. But this is what rock bottom looked like for me. This picture was taken in the 116-degree sun in Phoenix. I'm walking to my office. My car is broken. My shirt button had popped off. And I wanted to capture this moment because I knew that God had a purpose for me. I knew that I could serve at a high level, but this was not it. And I wanted to capture this moment and remember to save it for what this was like. And so, you know, I learned a couple of things. Number one, just because you're good at something does not mean you're good at running a business. And number two is that God can redeem time. God can heal, and God can fix stupid. And so, you know, it was fortunate for me that I was able to start serving and I rejoined the family business, and I was able to get back to serving where God needed me to be serving. And that's my new definition of fulfillment. So the big ideas that I want to talk about today is that abundance is a mindset. Okay, this is very important to touch on, and we're going to talk a lot about, you know, really what this means in depth today. And we're also going to touch on the fact that in order to live intentionally, you have to have a clear vision to realize your purpose. Now, my mission is to help people realize their purpose in the phase of life in retirement, and we're going to talk about that. And then the last thing we're going to touch on is a strategy, a rock-solid strategy you can develop to help secure your retirement and put you in the best position to serve and give during that phase of your life. So we're going to talk about the abundance mindset. This is one of my absolute favorite topics of all time. And, you know, it's funny because during this time when my business was failing, it was really the hardest time in my life. I had never experienced stress to that level, like real stress, physical stress. During that time, I lost about 55 pounds. I had damaged some very key relationships in my life. My kids didn't really have a dad during that time. You know, my wife didn't really have a husband. My parents didn't have a son. And God had me, but it was very far from my best. You know, in fact, I remember describing that time a lot like I had been jarred, like I was in a car accident. I was like in a stupor. I couldn't perform basic tasks. The anxiety was so crippling. And so what started to turn things around for me was I got some content put in my life by this gentleman named Dr. Joe Dispenza. And before I touch on Dr. Joe's work, what I want to share with you is that I don't know if anybody here has ever tried to outwork a failing business. Okay, it's very difficult to do. I was getting up at 4 a.m, having breakfast with my kids real quick, doing some work, going back to the office, doing as much work as I could, having dinner with the family, going back to the office, working until I'd fall asleep with my, at my desk, and I would repeat that process for months and months on end. And so one of the great things that I got out of that time was when you try to outwork a failing business and you're running out of money, you get a sense of what it could be like for a senior to run out of money in retirement. And now I had perspective that I didn't have before, and I got very clear and mission focused on who I'm going to be serving. So, you know, during this time, God put some amazing key people in my life, and I have to give a shout out to my wife, Jennifer, who just carried us through that time in the home and emotionally and mentally and was everything for me that I needed to be able to come back from a situation like that. But God was putting great people in my life, entrepreneurs, pastors, givers, and nothing was really connecting. So finally he goes, all right, I guess I got to send him some content from Dr. Joe here. And Dr. Joe teaches us that we think about 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. And 90% of those thoughts are the same as the day before. So as long as we keep repeating this habit, our life isn't going to change very much. This is his work. And this is where I started to learn about the two parts of our brain, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Conscious mind being, wishes and desires, subconscious being the actions. And I think it was Alex who touched on a good example of this is the New Year's resolution. right? You have a thought, hey, I want to get 50 grand in my bank account. All of a sudden, you wake up 6 months later, you've self-sabotaged yourself, and you're like, what happened? Where did I go? Why didn't this come true in my life? And the reason is because you have to do the math on how these parts of your brain operate. The subconscious is responsible for 95% of your day. The conscious mind is only 5%. So you literally have no chance unless you get a hold of this supercomputer in your mind and start to reprogram it to work for you. Okay? The conscious mind can process about 40 bits of data per second. The subconscious can process 40 million. And this is primal. Once upon a time, human beings had to survive in the wild. So you're being chased down by a predator. What happens? Adrenaline floods your body. Fight or flight response kicks in. Subconscious takes over, gets you out of that situation. Fast forward today, we see a social media post we disagree with. Fight or flight response kicks in. And we start to get that same type of trigger and response. This is why it's so important. We have to take control of this to get it to start working for us and be our best friend rather than our worst enemy. In fact, everybody sitting here up to this point is the sum total of your subconscious, thoughts and emotions and things that have got you up to this point. And there's a way that we can take hold of this and actually get it to start working for our benefit, which we're going to touch on some really key strategies. Now, I want to talk about where all this started, okay? Now, I'm going to go back to the very beginning of Adam and Eve. And the story of Adam and Eve is interesting because Adam goes and eats from this tree of good and evil. And he invents all of the vain imagination of man, lack, separation, limitation, depression, right? But there's two powers. There's man's power on earth and there's God's power in heaven. And there is no depression in the kingdom. There is no anxiety in the kingdom. There's no separation or lack. It's perfect. And we have to choose every single day which power we're going to subscribe to. Okay, it goes back to scarcity and abundance. Are we going to live in the worldly power of scarcity and lack? Or are we going to give in to God's true power of abundance and freedom? And so we kind of wax and wane back and forth between us all the time. I see it with husbands and wife in my office all the time. Meeting gets over, they want to go to dinner. Wife goes, where should we go? And the husband goes, well, I don't know. We got this like 2-for-1 special. We should go check that out, see what that's all about. And she's like rolling her eyes at him because he's been doing that her whole life, right? You know, they get out to the restaurant. She's like, should we get an appetizer? It's like, I don't know, maybe not, you know. And you don't have to necessarily go out to eat and spend a bunch of money to be in the abundance mindset. Okay, but you have to be able to take control and really spend intentionally, and we're going to talk about these things. A great illustration of this is found in Moses and Pharaoh. So in the Bible, Pharaoh represents your subconscious mind, okay? It's not going to work. It's too hard. You should give up. We can't do it this way. You're not enough, right? And what is Moses called to do? He's called to confront Pharaoh multiple times. He represents the conscious part of your brain, right? He's got to come up against Pharaoh, confront him multiple times, be able to overcome this, and he has to even remain faithful when it seems impossible right up until the last second in order to deliver people to the promised land and be able to be restored and freed from this oppressive nature. So a couple of examples of this, I'm going to prove it here in a second, does anybody here have an image of retirement like this? Okay. And senior anxiety is a very real thing, okay? I deal with it all the time, and this is my mission, to eradicate anxiety and fear so we can enjoy this phase of life. But some people have an image of retirement of scarcity, and they don't have enough, and they're struggling to get by. On the flip side, retirement can also look like this. You can have images of, every day being Saturday, every hour being happy hour, visiting the kids, taking vacations, spending time with your neighbors and loved ones, giving and serving at the level that we're called to give and serve. Okay, and so it doesn't have to be that way. And in fact, this is a big problem I have. And again, I want to preface this by saying I love the Dave Ramsey show for a lot of reasons. I love that he helps people get out of debt, and there's some key principles in there that he's helping to serve people with. What I don't like about the show is when you get a millionaire that calls in and goes, hey, Dave, I got $1 million. He goes, woohoo, right? He's all excited about the $1 million. But I don't care about the $1 million. I care about what are you doing with that time? What is that $1 million doing in your community to go serve and expand the kingdom of God? That's what I'm more interested in, right? And there's millionaires calling into the Dave Ramsey show. That's a problem to me. A pastor friend of mine put it like this. He said, in churches, the average person that's attending church, there's only 4% of those people that are actually tithing. 4%. Could you imagine that to expand the kingdom of God? Another pastor of my friend put it like this. He said, imagine that you're partnered with the greatest business in the universe. They're going to bring all the resources, all the teams, all the leverage, all the talent, everything you possibly need, and you get 90% of the profits and they only want 10. It kind of reframes things a little bit, right? In terms of how we can show up to be able to give and serve. So what I want to do is I want to look at the definition of retirement, because we're going to talk about retirement a lot today and how we can maximize retirement income and how we can really help people to spend from abundance and realize this place. But I wanted to find some of these terms. So this is what the dictionary says about retirement. It basically means to withdraw from one's place of work or to reach a place of seclusion and privacy. Now let's look at what the Bible says about retirement. It's only found in one place, which is right here in Numbers, and basically what it means is to be withdrawn from regular service. Okay, it's kind of a grim definition, right? This is a reason for my purpose, trying to help people discover what that means. So I wanted to look up the definition of wealth while I was at it, and what was interesting that I didn't know was abundant is directly in the definition of wealth, which is just crazy to me. So I kept on going, and I wanted to define abundance, right? A lot of people grew up with the household phrase, money doesn't grow on trees in their house, right? But I don't think they ever tried planting a money tree. So thank you. So, I looked up the definition of abundance, and basically, it's tied to wealth and plentifulness. So what does plenty really mean? It means yielding plenty and giving a lot. And ultimately what it means is we arrive at this concept of freedom. That's really what we're all after, right? Who here has played the retirement game in their mind, where you add up your bills and you go, okay, if I can get 10 grand a month of passive income, I'll be able to be free and retired, right? Anybody play that game? Okay, got a few hands here, right? A lot of people do. Let me ask you a question. If someone came to you tomorrow and gave you your number, how many of you would spend 100% of your time giving and serving and being in the level and place you want to be in for the rest of your life? Show of hands. Everybody's hand should be up, right? It's like you would be where you want to be 100% of the time. So how do we arrive at this concept of abundance? Just because you have money does not mean you have abundance. Okay, I see this with my clients a lot. I have clients that have sold very successful businesses, had massive exits, they're multimillionaires in retirement, and they're still living in scarcity because they don't have a clear plan and path on how they can distribute their wealth to themselves. Okay, and so when we talk about this concept of abundance, there's some key things that you can put in your life in order to be able to generate this and get your mindset in the place that you need to be able to do it. The first thing that I want to share with you is to get a hold of what we call your ants. Okay, and these aren't your relatives. I'm talking about ants, or automatic negative thoughts. Anybody have these that just kind of pop into your brain automatically? You can't really control them. We want to get a hold of those ants, and we want to start to be aware of them. And the second thing we would do is we'd start to make a list of all of them. What are the things that you're constantly telling yourself all the time that just aren't true? Someone else put that in there. You're not good enough. This isn't going to work. It'll work for them, but not for me. I don't have the connections. I don't have the resources. I don't have the money, right? We want to start to write their replacements. So instead of nobody likes me, the right people love me. Right? Things aren't working out for us. Always goes wrong for me. Hey, this is working out the way it's supposed to for me. Right? We want to start to get control of these and start to replace them so that we can start to flip this around. A way that you can supercharge this would be, well, before I get to that, one thing I want to touch on is the next thing you want to do is look at the people and situations in your life that are triggering you to fall back into the subconscious state. So you have this kind of image in your mind of who you want to be, and all of a sudden you go out through your day, something bad happens, and you fall back to that subconscious self, right? You get into an argument with someone, a coworker or a friend, and you just give away all your power and energy for the rest of the day. You drive home and get fast food, you veg out on the couch and watch Netflix reruns, you throw in the towel, maybe you drink alcohol, maybe you smoke marijuana, whatever it is, you just check out and go back to the subconscious mind. What we want to do is we want to start to get control of what are those things that are happening in your day. We want to become aware of them and start to be able to predict them coming on. And what's really important is when you go home at night, you can actually close your eyes. This is from Dr. Joe. You can mentally rehearse how you would do it differently the next day. So if it's that situation that you're always in where you're going, man, every time I see this person, they just drag me down. I just can't even control myself. I throw in the towel on my emotions. You can start to go home at night, close your eyes, mentally rehearse, well, how am I going to show up better tomorrow? How am I going to show up as the person that God calls me to be tomorrow? And I'm not going to give my power away to that person or that circumstance. I'm going to keep it to be able to create and heal and bless others in my life. And so that's an exercise that you can do. You can start to make a list and write down a few key goals that you want to be true in your life. And not like a big dissertation that's like this long thing that's like nobody's ever going to read. Something you can read in 30 seconds every morning and every night. And what I like to do is I like to take the top one that I'm focused on for those 9 days, and I like to set it as the lock screen on my phone. I don't know the data that couldn't find one that was consistent. I saw some sources that said you look at your phone 60 times a day, 90 times a day, over 100 times a day. But if you're looking at the thing you want to be true in your life more and more every single day, you're going to get reminders of it to help you stay in that conscious frame of mind. Now, supercharging this, okay, this is where it gets really exciting for me. Has anybody here ever read the book called Miracle Morning? Or heard about putting bookends around your day, right? The more you study successful, wealthy people, the more these people are taking control of the first hour of their day and the last hour of their day. So a lot of us, we use our phone as our alarm clock. And what happens? We roll out of bed, boom, text from someone, email from someone, bad news segment that pops up, Facebook, whatever it is, right? And immediately we're drawn into a place that wasn't what we chose for that day. You've heard about this, like waking up on the wrong side of the bed. Okay, but if you can take control of that first hour of your day, and I like to block all that stuff out, you can really start to prime your day and give yourself a shot at practicing who you want to be and how you want to show up powerfully for that day. So what I like to do is I like to get up in the morning, grab a glass of water, leave my phone behind, and I like to go for a walk. And I love to listen to affirmations. Affirmations are really powerful. And I like to make my own because I'm weird. I just like that stuff. But I put them over those little frequencies, you know, those ones you like hear when you go to like a spa, like that nice kind of hum, relaxing, right? So I got my headset on, I'm out for a walk, I'm listening to all the things that I want to be true in my life. You know, when my kids wake up, I don't want them to wake me up. I want to wake them up. I want to be enthusiastic to see my daughters before I go to the office all day. I want to be there for my wife. I don't want to take her energy first thing in the morning. I want to give her energy. When I see my coworkers, they're bummed out to be there. I want to lift them up. I want to be the best meeting in my client's day. I want to be called and on fire for God to give and serve in the areas I'm supposed to be in. Great blessings of abundance rain out in heaven and crash over my life in waves of prosperity. And when I say a few of those and I walk the block a couple times, you don't want to be my first meeting that morning. So again, it's getting you in that right frame of mind. Now, what's also powerful is that last hour at night. Because what's interesting about nighttime is that's when the conscious mind turns off, subconscious mind kicks in. And the subconscious mind is just a tape player. It's just playing back all that stuff that happened throughout your day, getting it to be true to show up again in your life. So when you go to sleep at night, you actually move through different brain waves. Okay, beta when you're awake, alpha, theta, delta. Theta is interesting because that's the same state of mind you're in when you're a child, ages 0 to 7. And children are super learners. They're the fastest learners on planet Earth. And you actually tap into that brainwave once a day, every day. So if you can start to play that stuff back in your ears, all the things you want to be true in your life during that state of sleep, it'll start to sink in. And you let that play all night. When you wake up in the morning, guess what happens? Now those ants become positive affirmations. Now your supercomputer that's running 95% of your day isn't discouraging you and being your worst enemy. It's actually your best friend. It's telling you things are working out. Just keep going. God's putting blessings in your life. God's putting the right people in your life. You're serving where you're supposed to be serving. It's a very powerful tool that you can actually start to, somebody used the phrase earlier, weaponize. I think it is one of our greatest weapons we have to combat the enemies in our life. And so that's one thing we can do to really supercharge our mindset to be able to succeed in our day. So when we arrive at that point, that's when we can really start living intentionally. And so one of the things that's always kind of baffling to me is when I meet with people, I get a sense that there's not really like a clear thought process on what they want that like part of life to be. Like retirement is really special to me. Like you don't have to work anymore. You get to work. And this is a time when you can really give and serve like never before. But yet a lot of people aren't giving consideration for what they really want that time to be. So when I sit and meet with my clients, we spend a tremendous amount of time mapping out and outlining like what do you want to happen in this phase of life and how can we set up the right tools to help support that. So let's do a quick exercise today. I think this will probably be like one of the best things I could share today. Real quick, if you can, I just want you to think about why you're here today. And not like at this event, but I mean like what is God's purpose for you here on earth? If you can take a minute, everybody's got pens, they got phones, jot something down. You know, don't try to overthink it. Whatever was just put on your heart right now, write down what is your purpose for being here on earth? Would anybody like to share theirs? Let me get somebody. Who's got Tyler, thank you. Transform and educate. I can attest to that, brother. This guy's incredible. So that's absolutely beautiful. I think there's a lot of people in this room that can rally around that and help support that mission. Anybody else want to share theirs? Thank you. My guy. Powerful, man. That's awesome. I love it. That's incredible. I love that. Anybody else feel like they want to share? Yeah, Maureen. Amen. That's awesome. That's awesome. Ryan, thank you. Nice. I love that. Well, this is an incredible tribe of people we all get to be a part of here. So let's see how we can help create value for each other. Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate that. In case you don't have yours yet, I would encourage you to pray about it. Talk to the people in your life. See where you bring the most value. Because to me, that's what it's all about. Where are we bringing the most value to our community and the other people that we love in our life? So in case you want some proof, I looked this up, that you have a purpose here and God specifically has a purpose here for you. This is the math on being alive. It's 1 to the 10th power. I don't even know this number. I've been practicing this for like 2 weeks. 1 to the 10th power with 2,685 zeros behind it. I didn't get to that level of math. I got to the level of math in college where I was good enough to get hired at JP Morgan. I don't understand what this number is, but it's in the quadrillions. I looked it up. Literally, it's like impossible that we would all even be here today. And this is the proof right here. This is the evidence that God has a purpose for you, each and every person in this room, and we're called to fulfill that purpose. So just because you retire with faith also does not mean you retire with abundance, okay? I know a lot of believers that are living in scarcity right now in retirement. And to me, that's one of the saddest things in the world. You know, we want to have a great opportunity to share the gifts and the good news of Jesus with people in that phase of life. And so what I want to do is I want to turn to the Bible and talk about some things and this isn't me trying to use scripture to prove my point. These are just stories that I like, that I think highlight some of these concepts that I was really inspired to share with you. And what's interesting is Jesus spent like 40% of his time talking about money, which is an interesting concept to me. And so his first miracle, where I want to start in John 2, is where Jesus turns the water into wine. And so they're at this wedding. Everybody knows the story, right? They're running out, and Mary says, hey, get my son. He'll help take care of it. And the point of this to me is that whenever Jesus needed it, it was there, right? And there was always more than enough. He tells Peter to go get the coin from the fish's mouth, right, to pay the taxes. It's in Matthew 17. Okay, now the point of this is not to say you should use biblical principles to try to go get wealth. That's not my point in sharing this here today. What I'm saying is that there's evidence in Scripture that there was nowhere where it taught us to hoard money and hold on and try to save it for something just for the sake of saving money. It was always meant to bless and to be deployed and to share. Now, this is my favorite image that somebody made from the Bible, and this is where Jesus feeds the people. So people are coming to listen to him preach. They say, hey, his disciples come to him and say, it's getting late. We got to feed these people, right? He goes and blesses and multiplies the loaves and fish. And to me, when you read the story, there was some left over, which was really cool. Like there was always more than enough. And there's more evidence of this when Jesus is teaching on the mountain and he points to the birds and the flowers and said, look how, they don't worry. My Father takes care of them. He feeds the birds. The flowers are clothed. They have what they need. There's plenty of evidence in nature of this, right? The magnet is not worried that it's going to pull another magnet closer to it. The magnet doesn't have anxiety. The magnet's not concerned or have doubt or have any type of reservation that it's going to pull that other force into his life. It just does it naturally, right? And we have the power to be the magnets in our life. One of my favorite stories is the parable of the talents in Luke. And in this story, Jesus tells us that there was a master who entrusted his 3 servants with a certain portion of wealth. One multiplied it to a high level, one multiplied to an okay level, and one was scared and held on to it and didn't do anything. And it was very clear in that story that one was taken out and beaten and basically cast aside, right? And so to me, what it comes down to is stewardship. That's what this all comes down to. I truly believe that when I die and go to heaven one day, that God's not going to ask me, hey, what rate of return did you earn on your 401k? How much money did you save up, right? No, it was, what did you do with all that I was entrusting you with, right? What did you do with that money to help serve your communities and help grow disciples for the kingdom of God? And so this concept of stewardship is the theme here today. And what's interesting about money is we are born with nothing and we die with nothing. We can't take any of this with us, okay? So the time that we have here on earth is ours, but our bodies and this money is God's. And we're just meant to steward it and hold on to it in the meantime. And so I think it really gives us the ability to do things that are very powerful. And specifically in this phase of life of retirement, we can put in the right strategies to help you support your purpose so that you can go out and serve at a higher level. Now, I want to talk strategy for a minute, and I want to introduce you to this gentleman right here. This guy's name is Tom Hegna. Tom Hegna is the #1 authority on retirement in the world, #1 economist on the subject of retirement. And Tom created a philosophy 35 years ago that I use in my practice every single day to help people to be able to have what they need in retirement and create a common sense approach and practice to being able to put the right pieces in your life so that you can retire comfortably with dignity. And we're not going to talk about not running out of money today. That's a basic. Like, that's a given. Obviously, we don't want to run out of money. We want to talk about how we can get you to show up with abundance and powerfully in this phase of life without scarcity. Because here's what's interesting about this. Nobody takes the time to stop and think, what is it going to feel like to start withdrawing my money and living off of it? Right? We're also used to this saving mode. We're in accumulation mode. We're all earning money. We're growing, right? But there's this shift in retirement that is very important to acknowledge because not a lot of people are practicing mentally and emotionally what that's going to feel like to flip it. Now your behaviors that you've put in place of being a saver your entire life get turned on their head, and you have to start withdrawing from that portfolio, and we don't know how long anyone's going to live. So this is the line that changed my life. Tom Hegner wrote a white paper called Retirement Alpha, and I want to read this to you, okay? It says, it is impossible to optimize the withdrawal strategy of a diversified portfolio over the indefinite period of a human life. You can't do it. What that means is if you retire with a portfolio, a diversified portfolio of whatever it is, stocks, bonds, real estate, doesn't matter, because you don't know how long you're going to live, it is mathematically impossible to optimize the perfect withdrawal strategy. If we knew you were going to die tomorrow, we could all drive down and have the best party in Miami we could ever have tonight, okay? But if you're going to live 40 or 50 years on the money you've accumulated to that point, you have to be very intentional and create a key strategy to make sure that that's going to be enough to last you for the rest of your life. Now, Tom says the success of your retirement gets boiled down to these two things. How much guaranteed lifetime income do you have? And have you removed all the other key risks from that retirement income? That's it. So let's talk about what guaranteed lifetime income is and what the three pillars are. There's Social Security, which everybody knows about Social Security. They take some FICA out of your check, they put it aside, and you get a check for the rest of your life. It's a guaranteed source of lifetime income. It's a paycheck for the rest of your life. It was created for the Great Depression era, so people would have something to be able to retire on. Okay, pensions. People know what pensions are, right? You're going to get a guaranteed check for the rest of your life. The last one is annuities. Annuities are a source of lifetime income that will provide a guarantee from the company for as long as you live. Now, what are the key retirement risks? Well, there's longevity, outliving your money. That's a risk multiplier. It's the biggest one. Why? The longer you live, the more significant these other risks become. The longer you live, there's a better chance that there's going to be volatility. The longer you live, there's a better chance there'll be administration changes and taxes will go up. The longer you live, there's a better chance you're going to need long-term care. Your spouse will pass away. Inflation, we're seeing that right now. Inflation's a big risk to people who are on a fixed income. It can be very scary to deal with for people that are on a fixed income in this time frame right now. We have to have a plan for that. Taxes going up. Quick show of hands. Who here thinks taxes are going down anytime soon? Anybody? Right? We have to be able to have an adjustment for taxes, right? If all of your income's coming from a 401k, which is fully taxable, and they raise taxes, there's nothing you can do. You got to pay the taxes and your income's going to go down. That's why it's important to be proactive and talk about ways to create some diversity. Volatility is a big risk. If you don't have the right risk capacity and too much of your assets are in something where if you were to lose it, it would devastate your life or your retirement, which is so sad. We saw a lot of this in 2008. I've talked to a lot of families who are like, man, I was on track for a great retirement until 2008 happened. It doesn't have to be that way. You can get ahead of this and create the right strategy ahead of time, right? Sequence of withdrawals and sequence of returns risk. There's a lot of content on YouTube about this right now because of safe withdrawal rates in retirement. Does anybody know what the safe withdrawal rate is for your retirement? Tyler, you can't answer. 4%. 4% was the industry standard for 30 years. So that means that if you came to me and said, Daniel, I got $500,000, how much can I pull out? Great, you can pull out 20 grand for the rest of your life. That's safe. You know what the number is today now? Man, I wish I had something to, can I give you a gift or something? Answer all this question. 1.9% is the safe withdrawal rate. So if you save $1 million for your retirement, congratulations, you can live on 19 grand a year comfortably. Exactly, right? That's the problem. So there we go. You're going to talk to Tim about some house hacking. Get on that other side of the duplex, man. Okay, just kidding. We're going to talk about other things. So interest rate risk, right? We're seeing this right now. What if interest rates rise or fall and you're too sensitive to that? Okay, long-term care. Just one. By the way, I brought some books here. They're gifts for everybody. Please feel free to take one. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. And I wrote that book because I'm terrified of what's going to happen to people who need long-term care in their retirement. It's a real risk. I went through it with my grandmother. She needed it for 8 years. I saw what it can do to a family. So that's part of my mission, is to help get out in front of this and protect people's grandmothers and grandfathers so they can retire with dignity and confidence and not have to have any type of scarcity or failure in retirement. And one spouse predeceasing the other. This is why Denzel and I really linked up right here, is because he's serving single women. That's a big focus in his practice. I serve a lot of divorced women, widows, helping them to basically get everything they need to protect themselves for the rest of their life. So why guaranteed lifetime income? Why do you have to have that? Why is that the first step? Because again, we don't know how long anyone's going to live. And here's the proof that you have to have guaranteed lifetime income. It used to be in America, you would go work for a corporation for 40 years. Then you would retire and get a what? A pension, a guaranteed lifetime income check for you and your spouse for the rest of your life as long as you live. And guess what? There was no retirement planning industry. My job didn't exist. There were no seminars. There was no strategy. You got a check that covered you for all of your needs for the rest of your life. Okay, now somewhere in the late 80s, corporations in America figured out it was cheaper to match a 401k contribution for people that contribute than provide a guaranteed lifetime income check for the rest of people's lives. People are living longer. So the 401k is introduced. Pensions get phased out. Fast forward to today, what happens? People are running out of money in retirement. We have something called a retirement crisis. 10,000 baby boomers are retiring every single day. And here's the end of this failed experiment, okay? 50% of America arrives to retirement with less than $25,000. Let that sink in for a second. Half of our country is arriving to retirement age with less than $25,000. Why? Because when we switched to the 401k, guess what happened? We took people who had no experience in finance and now made it their responsibility to know how to invest, how much to put away, when to rebalance, and how much they could take out. It didn't work. Okay, this is why guaranteed lifetime income is so important to be able to create that stability in your retirement. So why annuities? Everybody knows what Social Security and pensions are. Why annuities? Well, we call annuities the A word. Anybody kind of twinge when I said that word annuity? Okay, oh, everybody's okay, we're okay. Well, what happens here is a lot of people don't have kind of a stigma about annuities. And the reason why that is because financial services is a very profitable business in the United States. And there are a lot of firms that make money on managing assets for a fee. Nothing wrong with that. It's good to have a great fiduciary, fully licensed advisor. That's fine. Okay, but what's happening in the United States is similar to what happened in the Great Depression. Americans don't want what's happening right now. They're shifting in droves and buying more and more annuities in the tens of billions every single year. That means that these firms are losing market share in the tens of billions every single year. So if you're a firm who's offering your services to manage assets for a client for the rest of their life in their retirement for a fee, and you run into one who has an annuity, which is a lifetime stream of income, you can't help that person. So they have started these anti-annuity ad campaigns. Anybody see these things? I hate annuities. A great question. An annuity at its core is a stream of lifetime income. It's a way for you to take assets and create your own income like a pension. So it's a way for you to get a check from the insurance company that they're going to pay for as long as you live, no matter how long you live. Even if you run out of money, you're still going to be guaranteed your income, which is very important. And interest rates are very high today, so this is an incredible time that we're seeing these kinds of things happen, right? And how can an insurance company do this? How could you give someone money and they can give you a guarantee that even if you spend through all that income, you're never going to run out? Does anybody want to take a guess? They are powerful. They are institutionally established, that's for sure. Tyler, come on, chip in, man. What do you got? They control both sides of the mortality table. Very good. That's powerful. I like the way Tom Hagen explains it. He explains it with a story. Okay, and he says, how can the insurance company provide mortality credits, which is basically that extra money when you run out to be able to protect you for your entire life? He says, if there's 5 90-year-old women and they go on vacation and they play a game and they say, hey, we got a fun game. Let's all put $100 in this box. Let's tape up the box. Whoever's alive a year later will open the box. We'll split all the money. Okay, so a year goes by. What happens? They lose the box. No, I'm just kidding. One of them passes away. And now there's 4 ladies, okay? And they open up that box, and they all split $125,000. Now, did that box make any money? Did it earn any interest? How is it the lady's getting a 25% return? Those are the mortality credits. One woman is no longer alive to see the benefits of that money continue on for the rest of her life. The other ladies are. So they're being paid for the ones that didn't make it to that point, being on both sides of the mortality table. That also includes life insurance, but I'm going to go over that for now. So thank you for asking what an annuity is, okay? It's a stream of lifetime income. Okay, and so these anti-annuity campaigns that say, I hate annuities and you should too, I think they're dangerous because I don't think you should attach an emotion to a financial tool. It's just a tool. right? Like if you're saying I hate this or I like this, you should be disqualified from the process immediately, right? It should be objective, not subjective. Yes. Oh, wait. I'm gonna get to that. Hang on. Thank you. Yes, they have. So again, that's awesome. Yeah. So again, I think that it's like going home and looking at your toolbox and saying, "Well, I hate my hammer," or "I hate this screwdriver." It doesn't. They're just tools. I don't care if it's an annuity, a mutual fund. Doesn't matter. It serves a function, deserves a seat at the table. So, what's happening is when I do events and I speak with people, okay, I'm going around the room and I say, "Hey, who here has a pension?" And people go, "Oh my God, I have a pension. I love it. I'm so grateful. I was the last person in my company to get one. They were still offering. I love my pension." And I go, "Who owns an annuity?" And they go, "Ooh. An annuity? Why would I own that, right?" It's the same source of lifetime income, right? This is the proof that that marketing message is actually taking hold. And so my mission is to try to shift paradigms. I want to unwind this and get people to see it's just a tool and it can provide lifetime security. I'm going to prove that in a second. In fact, why do you put money in a 401k? What is the purpose of putting money in a retirement account? Lifetime income, okay, right? It's to grow the money to be the most it can be, to take out as much as you can for as long a period of time as you possibly can, as safe as possible. You know what I just described? The job description of an annuity. That's what it does, okay? So let's look at this so you don't think I'm making this stuff up. Okay, let's take a look through history, right? Anybody here know a guy named Beethoven? Okay, the German government discovered that this guy was a prodigy at age 15. And this right here next to me is the annuity contract they wrote, and I read it, and it's interesting. What it says is the German government recognized that this young man's a prodigy, and we want to liberate him from the burden of having to earn a living so that he can create great works of art for our country. And we still listen to these symphonies today. So how many people in this room, if you had the money thing figured out, could really create some great lifetime works and really share at a powerful level, right? That's the point. The German government proved this thousands of years ago, that lifetime income is the way to provide security, peace of mind, and allow you to show up as your best self for the rest of your life. Ben Franklin, okay, founding father, great inventor. He was out playing with a key in a lightning storm, right? I don't know what his mom was letting him do out there with a kite in a lightning storm, but I didn't get that part of the story. Ben Franklin, in his will, left 2 annuities, one to the city of Boston and one to the city of Philadelphia, that paid out till 1993. And eventually, the cities went to the insurance companies and settled for administrative purposes because it's just, hard to keep track of that for hundreds of years, okay? Babe Ruth. Yeah. Babe Ruth, right? Great baseball player. Put 100% of his money in annuities. Now, again, I'm not advocating you to do that. I don't think you should do that, okay? But Babe Ruth did it because he wanted the security, the peace of mind. He wanted the absence of volatility. He wanted to focus on things that were important to him in his life. Ben Bernanke, everybody remember him? Got us through the head of the Federal Reserve during 2008, saw us through the financial crisis. Share it with me. Great Depression, yeah. Yeah, I always think of Babe Ruth and think of Sandlot, that great line where they say heroes get remembered and legends never die. That's what I always think of when I think of Babe Ruth. Okay, so Ben Bernanke, right? You could call him Mr. Bank. He was in charge of overseeing all the banks at one point, right? When he did his financial disclosure of his assets, his 2 biggest holdings, 2 annuities. No. Tony Robbins, everybody in this room knows who Tony Robbins is, right? Tony Robbins wrote a whole book about this and how annuities he went around the country talking about it, trying to get people to wake up and realize, like, hey, you need to give this consideration for your retirement. This could be the thing that helps give you that security in that stage of your life. Now, there's a couple of examples that I want to highlight. This is a paper called Rational Decumulation, written by Wharton Financial, 2 economists named Dr. David Babel and Craig Merrill. They proved in this paper that there are 208 economists across our country that view annuities as the optimal retirement solution for most Americans. Okay, this is a great article. Okay, it says retirees with guaranteed lifetime are happier and live longer. I didn't finish my story earlier about some clients I have. They're very successful entrepreneurs. They made millions of dollars. They retired without any plan for lifetime income, and they're miserable in retirement. Okay, they're holding on to money. They're watching Bloomberg every second of every day. They're reading the Wall Street Journal. They're trying to decide if they can take out money, if they can't take out money. They're living in scarcity and they're millionaires. Consequently, I had people who were teachers, made far less money than these business owners, but they got pensions. And they are living very happy because they know that every single month they're going to get a check to cover all their needs and expenses. They can spend it one month and it's going to be replaced the next month. And they're able to operate from abundance. It's very easy to be abundant when money's flowing. It's very easy to fall into scarcity when you feel like it's running out. And so lifetime income is a solution for that, okay? This paper here, I want to read this to you, okay? This is from the Financial Research Institute of Boston. And it says, annuities offer features others can't. High cash flow, uncorrelated to market returns, retirement alpha in the form of mortality credits, which only life insurance companies can manufacture, longevity, hedging, and liquidity features. So this was in that paper, Retirement Alpha, where it shows that these things have a way of being able to support you and give you that abundance mindset. Let's continue on, okay? We want to talk about England, okay? England was issuing annuities to their states for the last 200 years. And they had fans in Emily Dickinson and Jane Austen, and the high society of England used annuities to prevent something called the fall from grace. People that were losing money in other markets and businesses, people that were in high society wanted to support their standard of living. That's what they do. They protect your standard of living, so they've been using it forever. The Rothschilds, anybody ever hear of this family? Probably the wealthiest family that no one knows about on earth. It's just like they're running everything, right? Nathan Mayer Rothschild writing annuities to help fund things during the Napoleonic Wars. So my point in saying all this is not to say that annuities are the only solution. I want to raise awareness and share with people that this is established for thousands of years, and people have been using this to create security. Here's an example of a company. I just pulled a random one, Penn Mutual. Been in business 175 years. They're older than the US tax code, and they were writing annuities in the 1800s. This one was written in 1888. So this stuff's been around. It's not new. All right, I'm going to close here with a case study because I'm at the event of the Master of Case Studies. I don't have a whiteboard, but I want to run through this with you, okay? This is a common scenario, and I want to put our practice to the test. I want to show you our process right here of how we help serve clients every day, and something you can take and copy and duplicate, okay? So I want you to meet Danny Don't Plan and his spouse, Rebecca Ride Along. Danny is, thank you, I came up with that. Creative writing was my minor in college. Danny is 60 and is in IT management. Rebecca's 59, and she's in medical billing. They have a mortgage balance of $250,000 with a value of $450,000. They have a rate of 3%, which is their P&I payment, principal and interest. And that equates to a $1,200 a month payment. Anybody ever seen a case study like this on a whiteboard anywhere? You get building towards it, right? They owe on a car, they owe $30,000 with an interest rate of 4% and a payment of $580 a month. Okay, they have some random credit cards averaging about $15,000 with a payment of $200 a month. All their insurance is through their employer. They have combined balances of their 401k of $500,000. Their take-home net pay is $8,000 a month of combined wages. They need $8,000 a month with their current debts. They have no pensions. They want to retire at age 68 and 67 for Medicare and to reach their full retirement age. It's a very common retirement strategy. In fact, health insurance is one of the biggest barriers to retirement alongside with people's mortgages these days. So a lot of people are working to Medicare age just to make sure they have something for health insurance. And Dan's Social Security will be $2,800 a month. Rebecca's will be $2,200 a month. Now, I know I just threw a lot of information at you, but I want to dissect this a little bit at a time and show you how, with a couple of key moves and 2 steps, we can help create a lot of retirement security for this couple. Step 1, we have to secure the income. Going back to Tom Hegna's process, right? They have income. They have Social Security payments. It's not going to be enough to cover their basic needs for their lifestyle and expenses. We have to get to there first. If we don't, there's too much risk. What is risk? It's the probability something can go wrong. And if Murphy's Law has taught us anything, what can go wrong probably will go wrong. So if we remove all the key risks from their life, we remove the probability of portfolio failure. So we got to get enough lifetime income. Now, the first step, velocity banking, okay? And I want to show you something right here. This is why Denzel and I hit it off. This is my debit card from my all-in-one first lien HELOC, okay? I wanted to show you this because I'm a practitioner. I believe in velocity banking. I think it's an incredible, life-changing practice. Probably shouldn't hold up my actual debit card on YouTube. Sorry. Honey, call the bank if you're watching. Which one? Okay, just kidding. We're with Kingdom citizens. There's nothing's going to happen. We're all good. Okay, so velocity banking is important. We want to decrease the debts. Now, you see these numbers up here don't reflect the interest rates that I told you a second ago, okay? The car, if they paid it off, they'd have a 5.6% net impact. The home, the car would be a 23, and the credit cards would be 16. Here's where finance is tricky. If you go home and look at your payments on your debt and divide the amount of interest you're paying that month into the payment on the debt, you get your real interest rate, which is what we call your effective interest rate. And this is where finance is tricky, right? They always have it stacked in their favor. So a simple cash flow analysis will tell us what the first step is. Okay, I help people with retirement income for a living. So I pay very much attention to debt because there's only 2 levers to improve retirement income. You can increase the distribution of assets, or you can decrease the monthly obligation from your liabilities. That's it. So oftentimes, paying off debt is a very favorable tool to help cash flow in retirement. So we're going to use a velocity banking strategy and a first lien HELOC to get them into the place where over the next 8 years, they can wipe out these 3 debts with their current income. The second thing we're going to do to secure their lifetime income is we are going to roll $120,000 into a joint lifetime income annuity. Remember, they don't have pensions and they only have Social Security to cover up to this much of their expenses, but there's a shortfall. That's where the annuity goes. That's what covers them to make sure they're going to have enough lifetime income for their basic needs and expenses. Okay, so that's going to get them to step 1, and we can use a fraction of the money to do it. See, here's what people don't understand about lifetime income. When you retire with a portfolio and you use the entire portfolio to generate income, that's a very expensive proposition. Okay, they're going to use their whole $500,000 to get $1,200 a month. Why would you do that? Take 120, create an intentional strategy, secure your $1,200 a month. That frees up the rest of the money. So what are we going to do? There's still some key risks, right? If we get them to $8,000 a month net income today, that's not the same as $8,000 a month in 20 years. So we have some key risks we got to address, right? Step 2, we're going to remove some risk. Number 1, we're going to look at long-term care. There have been some amazing advancements in long-term care. And I didn't come here to talk about long-term care insurance, so everybody can relax. Don't worry, it's not going to go off the rails here. But they can do a rollover of $80,000 to a joint long-term care hybrid life insurance policy. And this is a very unique vehicle that a lot of people are doing. You can do a rollover directly from your 401k to these. This is going to guarantee them $5,000 a month each for the rest of their life to cover long-term care. So a $200,000, $1 million, like in the case of my grandmother, problem can be solved with $80,000 to protect both spouses with the right amount of tax-free income they'll deploy right when they need it. So that's going to take care of long-term care risk. Now, the economic impact of losing your spouse. We're going to use some of the freed up cash flow to purchase a 10-pay whole life insurance policy. Now, I want to stop right here and just tell you, I'm not telling anybody in this room to do this, by the way. This isn't like advice. I'm showing you an example. This is this person's example. The process we use to serve people is always the same. We go through these 2 steps. The outcome is always different. It depends on your unique circumstances, and that has to be taken into consideration. So when we buy this 10-pay whole life policy, we're going to buy some protection for Rebecca. Why is that? Women typically live longer than men, and that's why they say that retirement is a woman's issue. She is going to be alive to see the consequences of their planning together. For every one 90-year-old man that I have as a client, I have 8 90-year-old women. Okay, and my wife and I are a perfect example of this. We're about the same age. If I were to die tomorrow, she'd have a long way to go. Okay, so I own a tremendous amount of life insurance. Why? I don't want to remarry and be happy. I want to be miserable and rich. That's what the life insurance is for, okay? So I own a tremendous amount of this stuff, right? So again, if we buy if we buy a 10-pay whole life policy, we're going to get to do a couple things. We're going to get to protect Rebecca. We're also going to be able to create a buffer asset for some potential tax-free utilization. And I'm not going to go too in the weeds on that, but it does have something there. We're going to talk about tax risk, okay? Now, here's what's really cool. When they get to the appropriate age and they retire, we can start to do Roth conversions. Everybody know what a Roth conversion is? You can take your 401k, your pre-tax, your IRA, you can pay the tax and roll it into a Roth. Okay, and you can get tax-free income out of it for the rest of your life. We can do Roth conversions up to their 12% bracket and be able to create enough so that before they hit their required minimum distribution age, their tax bracket can be very, very close to 0. And that's important to help protect against tax risk and future higher taxes for people. These problems compound. These IRAs and 401ks that people are in are partnerships with the IRS. Except in that partnership, you get to get a contribution today. They get to tell you how much you owe them later. And it's a very risky proposition for some people. In fact, this also is a form of scarcity in retirement. You see people retire with big IRAs and retirement accounts, and they're scared to use the money because they don't want to pay taxes. They don't want to help out with student loans. They don't want to help take trips. They're not going to visit the grandkids because they don't want to pay tax on their IRA. That's crazy to me. We got to start to unwind this, and we have to have the right strategy to be able to do this. And the last thing is we want to make sure we're hedging against inflation. So if we do this, 6 moves, 2 steps, completely removes every retirement risk, gets them everything they need for the rest of their life, and they get to leave $300,000 liquid. They get to just have it invested. This is where we'd bring in a fiduciary advisor to help manage their wealth. And so, again, when you're talking about retirement income, it comes down to your risk capacity and your time horizon, okay? When you can do a strategy like this, typically you can see returns increase. Why is that? Because buy and hold always works. It always does. You cannot show me a time in America where if you do not buy a financial asset and hold it for long enough, you won't make money. What's the problem with retirement? It's not buy and hold. It's hold and distribute. You don't get that compounding anymore. You need that money. Your time horizon becomes immediate. Your risk capacity shrinks. So when we can do this and say, okay, we're going to have an intentional bucket for income, an intentional bucket for long-term care, an intentional bucket for one spouse dying, taxes, inflation, we go down the list, we leave 300,000 liquid. Guess what happens to that 300,000? New time horizon. It can grow for 30 years. And so we're able to see the portfolio actually do better in this case when it's managed properly by advisors. In fact, financial advisors love working with me because I get to come to them and say, hey, I'll take care of the income check. I'll take care of the plan for long-term care. I'll take care of the risks and things that come up in retirement. You just manage the money and grow it. And so it's a great way to have great working relationships to help secure people and protect their money. So I'm going to wrap up with this, okay? My mission is to help an army of Christians to have abundance of cash flow, plan for every need in their life, leave their children's children inheritance with life insurance so that they can have this special time fulfilled for their purpose that God calls us to give and serve at the highest level to grow more disciples for God. Guys, I want to say thank you so much for having me. It's been my pleasure and honor to be here. I'm extremely grateful. Thank you, Denzel, and the team at Cavalry. Thank you. We have questions?
Just one simple question. So when you talk about the conversion, the Roth conversion,
yeah.
So say you got $1 million in your 401k,
yep.
You convert it, they take the taxes out, and you end up with like 500, 600k. Is that what it looks like?
You just touched on like my favorite topic right here. Okay, how much time do I have, Denzel? 5 minutes? Okay. So Roth conversions are interesting to me because when you do the answer to your question is yes. That's how it works. Okay, so what he asked was, when you have pre-tax money, how do you get it into Roth? You have to pay the taxes. There's no way around that, just so we're clear. That would be tax evasion, and I don't want to be involved in that, and you'd go to jail. Okay? You have to pay the taxes, but there's two ways you can pay the taxes. Okay? You can do withholding on your IRA similar to the withholding you're doing from your paychecks, meaning you can send a portion of the government right away to cover the taxes. That's one way. I don't like that very much for some people. Why? Well, the tax-free Roth is the best tax-free is the best exemption there is. You want to get as much money into that thing as you can. You don't want to be taking money out. So you can pay the taxes from the IRA, but if you don't want to do that and you want to get all the money in the Roth, then you'd have to pay the taxes from somewhere else, like another asset. So a lot of people who, just people who plan for this and who maybe have wealth and they can access lines of credit and things like that, sometimes there's other ways you can create ways to pay taxes, like maybe use a line of credit so you get all your money growing for you. Maybe there's ways you can tie life insurance to that. I don't want to go too deep into it because there's a lot of different strategies there. But the point is there's other ways you can do it that would create some efficiencies that also give a solution to that opportunity cost. But the answer is yes, but I would consider alternatives, just like Velocity Banking provides alternatives for people, right? Thank you. Great question. Yes.
So typically, I as I said, I used to work with JP Morgan. We sold some of those products as well. Mm-hmm. They tend to say the ideal clients right around 55, someone maybe 55 to 58 years old.
Yeah.
Before you consider annuity.
Yeah.
Is this strategy you're speaking of fall in line with that, or is there a different age that you could work with?
That's another great question. And I don't want to sound like a broken record, but the answer is it always depends. It always depends. I'm not a big fan of blanket advice. I'm just not. I think, when you see these people who are online, and again, Denzel's really good about going individual with people, right? I go individual with people. When you see a lot of stuff online where people are just giving these like blanket statements and blanket advice, you got to remember they're trying to create frameworks for the masses, right? The Social Security data tells us 90% of America makes less than $100,000 a year. Okay, so they're speaking to the masses of people. Not that there's anything wrong with that. That's fine. But again, when you're talking to lots of people at volume on radio shows, channels, all kinds of things, you have to create frameworks where like, do this, never do this. Always do this, never do that, right? Because you're trying to help a big shot of people. It doesn't mean it's right for everybody. So there's a lot of people that could be the right move, but it depends on their situation. Maybe they don't need that much lifetime income. Maybe they should have started sooner, right? There's all kinds of different advantages to structuring it. What it comes down to is finding the right approach that meets their needs, right? How do we solve it for them so that it makes sense with the least amount of money possible so they can go out and enjoy and spend confidently? Thank you. Great question. Great question. Yes. Oh, thank you. Wow. I want to work with you. I want to work with everybody here, by the way, but she's just been so fun during this presentation. All of you have. Thank you so much for indulging me and let me yell at you for an hour. Basically, she's right. So with annuities, okay, there's a rule where you can't take money before 59 and a half or you'll pay a 10% penalty. So again, that's probably why they might be saying that. You know, depending on if you're planning on taking money sooner, you could be penalizing yourself. So again, if you were planning on retiring before age 59 and a half, maybe an annuity wouldn't be right. Maybe you could use another asset class like life insurance or real estate or something like that to generate income. In fact, there's a great strategy I didn't even touch on because this is more technical, but you can actually build bridges. So one of the things we do a lot of is cash flow analysis, and we look at, okay, if you have different streams of lifetime income you can turn on, is it advantageous to withdraw assets from another class to let those defer a couple more years to get higher income for the rest of your life? And if the answer is yes, then sometimes we could build a bridge. So maybe they could put a portion of annuity, let it roll till 60, and take assets from another place to bridge that income to get that annuity to defer and pay a higher payout for the rest of their life. Yes?
Do you ever compare your products to like a max funded IUL or anything like that?
Another great one. Yes, in some cases. And so that right there could be its whole other event and seminar, max funded IULs. You know, yes, I do. And so, so annuities are interesting because when I look at illustrations, okay, I always look at the guarantees. That's very important to me. And I don't want to offend anybody here or anything. I don't know who's using IULs or not. I'm not against IULs. I'm just saying, for example, I like to look at those illustrations and look at the guarantees. An index universal life insurance policy. And so with an IUL illustration, an index universal life policy, you can basically say, hey, I want to put this much money in, project this rate of return, and take out this much in tax-free loans. Okay, but it's a projection. It also has a guaranteed column saying, hey, if it doesn't perform, this is what it'll do. When I use annuities in my practice, I focus on guarantees only. I don't care about the projections. That doesn't mean anything. I don't want anybody disappointed in me. I don't want anybody coming back and going, well, Daniel, you said it was going to earn 7% every year for the rest of my life. I don't want that. Okay, I want to look at the guarantees. What can we count on today? Because again, if we don't use the guarantees and look at what the illustration saying this is the worst case scenario that'll happen, we don't really have a plan. We have kind of a thing. So I do compare them to IULs, and so I think it'd be interesting to run some exercises and say, hey, look, what if you put this much in an IUL versus an index income annuity and compare the two and see which one is best? And maybe it's a combination. I don't know. It depends on the circumstances. That was a great question.
Beautiful.
That was a fun question. Anybody else? Yes.
How does that compare to a whole life insurance policy?
Oh,
Your
excellent
annuity,
question. Yeah. So they, for me, I don't, I do a lot of life insurance. I don't generally do a lot of life insurance for income. Annuities are what provide income. I use an annuity. So life insurance can be a great source of providing income. I'm not saying it's not. And I have life insurance that I fully intend to take money out of at some point, and I take money out of right now. It's how I just bought this house. So I use life insurance every single day, but when we're talking about retirement income, thank you for asking this question. One of the biggest problems I'm seeing right now online is I'm having people come to me and they're saying, hey, I'm going to retire in 5 years. Somebody just showed me a life insurance illustration for the bulk of my income. And to me, that is a risky, dangerous proposition. I'm just going to tell you the truth. I'm not trying to disparage anybody or try to give any advice, but I think you want to be aligned with the right tools, right? Life insurance can serve a great place, and it's really good. One thing I'm on a mission to raise awareness on is it doesn't mean that you have to put all of your money in just one thing, right? You might be able to use an annuity for some income, and life insurance might be a good supplement. So they have different benefits and features, different taxation. They have different, things they offer. But I generally try to stick to annuities for income and life insurance for benefits. Yes?
But isn't the life insurance policy tax-free? When
Yes.
you withdraw it and you use it to buy a car, a house, whatever,
Well, yes.
versus your annuity?
Yes, yeah. So when you use a life insurance policy and it's structured properly and you take the right loan from it properly, yes, you can use that money tax-free. And annuities, unless they're in a Roth IRA, you cannot. So they're going to grow tax deferred. So that's a big key differential. And again, it's not like I'm trying to compare one versus the other. They both offer different benefits. I own life insurance because I like that tax-free utilization of my capital over and over and over again to keep my money compounding. For me, that makes sense. When I get to retirement age, my wife, who every woman in her family has lived either 90 or 100, I'm going to be using lifetime income annuities to help secure her lifestyle. So they just have her different phases at different paces of life. I think pre-59 and a half, the life insurance offers a lot of value. After 59 and a half, that's where annuities can provide a really great income to help mitigate that tax expense or penalty. So that was a great point. Thank you.
All right.